three fingers. Hello, Senzo. It is a beautiful morning. The sun is not quite up yet. It is 23 and 71, so 23 degrees Celsius, 71 degrees Fahrenheit here in the beautiful Sabi Sands. We are busy sitting on the middle of quarantine, and we've got a really gorgeous view of some wildebeest prancing around and trying to sort of figure out what they are going to do today. So an implausibility is the collective noun because they are an implausible animal. There's a cute story that goes around of how they were created out of spare parts of other animals. So basically, after the creator created all of the animals, he didn't want to waste the bits he had left over. So he took the horns of a small buffalo and the tail of a zebra and the face of a goat and a few other things, and he smushed them together, and out came the wildebeest. That one that's right in the middle of the screen is looking heavy, heavy, heavy pregnant. They usually drop sort of mid-December to mid-January, so we still have a ways to go before we have little wildebeest calves running around. What they're doing at the moment is they would have spent the night here, and because they can't see at night, and there's a huge herd of impala that have also spent the night here. They're just over to our side, and the more eyes, the more ears, the better chance of survival. So basically what they're doing is they're crowding together to give, ooh, these two boys are having a little bit of a fight for us, to give each other a chance. Also, impalas are a little bit more aware, let's say, rather than being mean to the wildebeest than the wildebeest are. So if the impalas start alarm calling, the wildebeest know something is definitely up. Wildebeest will alarm call at appropriate moments, but they also alarm call at inappropriate moments. So now that everybody can see, these males are getting their testosterone on and are busy practicing. The one on the left-hand side that's towards the backside has a beautiful set of horns. He's looking a bit older than the one in front, whose bum we can see. I'm just going to be quiet for a minute. We might be able to hear their horns clashing. Just a little bit in the background. If this was rutting season, they would really be going full tilt. These boys are not doing a bad job at the moment. Very handsome and very good shape. Very good nick. I know we get a lot of people that worry, oh my goodness, Djuma looks so dry, but remember, we are just coming into summer. We've just had our first big rains of the season, and I'm not quite sure. I think maybe we got about 10 to 15 mils, so nothing huge, but it's still good. So there is food for everybody. Slight breeze blowing. Okay, impala, wildebeest, fantastic. We're going to carry on. Tristan left the Styx Pride heading north yesterday, away from Twin Dams, I believe. We have Steph, who's on his own 2 feet, out and about, and he's got a beautiful sunrise for us, so let's head over to him while we decide where we're going to pick up our tracks.
Good morning, and welcome to the sunrise on this morning's sunrise bushwalk. It's actually quite a lovely walk this morning. My name's Steph Winterboer. On camera today we have Jean-Ray, and our mission today is to go and look for some lions that were roaring around the back of camp last night, and that's what we're going to do, I think. Difficult to say exactly where we're going to be going or what we're going to be doing. And in this particular area, it has there's a good chance that anything could happen. We've decided today to walk north away from the camp, and this particular area has a lot of drainage lines and quite hilly, and because of that, there's a lot of elephant around, there's a lot of buffalo around. In this particular case, there's a lot of lion around, and you never know where these types of things lead you once you start. Now, I haven't been on walks since last week sometime, so it's always a bit of I suppose you want to say it takes a bit of time to get this plugged in feeling going again. I expect it only to really kick in towards the end of drive. That noise that you're hearing there is an Egyptian goose, one of the more common of the large bird species around. Jean-Ray doing a fantastic job of showing you that bird. Now, what is uncommon about that is that there's just one. There's usually normally 2 of them, and they are in a monogamous pair, which means that while they're both still alive and adult, they will stick together for life. If one of the partners had to die or get caught for some reason, or be unable to fly with the pair, then they will pair up again with some other birds. But for the most part, they just hang around together and defend patches of water against other birds. Although they congregate with one another to feed, which is quite weird, because you can get sometimes flocks of hundreds, numbering up to about 1,000 birds on prime feeding areas. Now we are walking on a game path here. Now I want to show you what this looks like. This is a game path. This was an highway during the dry season. Now there's a lot of water lying around, and so this wasn't used as often as what I expected it to be during this dry season. We've got a lot of basically surface water lying around at the moment, and these game paths were actually not used that much, but they are used by predators a lot. And if there's any chance of us finding these lion, it's going to be looking for tracks on these game paths. And so I'm going to be walking up this game path a little bit, scanning this thick bush in front of us. In the meantime, we're going to be sending you over to Noelle, who I've hoped has decided where she's going to be going for the rest of today's drive.
We also have a beautiful sunrise. Obviously, we're in the same place as Steph. I've also been a little bit of a silly willy this morning and forgot to say, don't forget, we are live, we are interactive, hashtag Safari Live on the Twitter, and you can also follow us on the YouTube chat. We love your questions. We love hearing, ooh, you tell him, buddy, you tell him. We've got a impala running around us, and one very large male who's chasing a smaller one. So yes, please send us questions. We do love them. All right, I heard the geese going a little bit at Wildebeest Dam, at Djuma Dam, but they've stopped, so I'm sure they were just greeting the morning as we are with this gorgeous, gorgeous sunrise. Those colors are absolutely fantastic. And again, we talked about it last night. A little bit of cloud cover always helps. Gives us some texture and some ambiance. Senzo's feeling very artistic this morning. There we are. Beautiful. Okay. So let's go dam hopping. I think let's first go down to Twin Dams, but you know we always make a plan, and then it never really works out because we pick up whatever we're going to pick up. And then from there we'll make a decision and we'll see what is potting out in the bush this morning. Since I don't know if we want to maybe do this male impala that ran past us when we were looking at the sunrise has now successfully he's gonna move away, sorry Shane. He's now successfully chased off that young male and has decided he's gonna have a feed, but he's doing it away from all the other impalas that have moved down towards the dam, towards the watering hole. So he's feeling very good about himself this morning. Yes, everyone, I agree. It's gorgeous. All right, my friends, what do you think is going to be our first non-wildebeest, non-impala mammal that we are going to see this morning? I'd love to hear what you think. This is a game I like to play, especially when I get younger guests around. It's always interesting to see who's gonna win. We do a point system, so we can see today who wins with the points. And it has to be a mammal, not a bird or a reptile or an insect. We're gonna do a mammal. Senzo, what are you gonna choose? Senzo's thinking. I say elephant. Senzo's still thinking. Senzo says he's trying to figure out what he dreamt about last night, because sometimes that can tell you what you see. It's interesting, Senzo, that you say that, because whenever I have hectic dreams about leopard, I usually see leopard in the morning. I didn't dream about leopard last night. That doesn't mean we're not going to maybe find one, but it's usually the case. Oh, I love this time of the morning. It's a little bit crisp, a little bit fresh. And Steph is enjoying this beautiful cool air walking about, so let's head on over to him.
I am actually enjoying this beautiful cool air walking about. I think it's going to be one of those rare occurrences in the season going forward. That was just Jean-Ray falling into the crater left here by a seep line that has been excavated. Now, this where we are is where during summertime, water will be seeping out of the ground here and will lie in these puddles. And this is where you'll get frogs and where you'll get a bunch of mosquitoes breeding out and everything else. But it is also where the best grass will be come the end of the dry season, and what animals have been utilizing as a food source up until this point. You can see that the grass is a little bit greener here. It's not the tastiest grass, I must be honest with you, that grow in these seepy areas. But to be honest, it is the only green grass around right now, and while we wait for the end of the dry season to come about, should be around about November, we'll start seeing an increase in the amount of rainy mornings and stormy afternoons that we have going forward. And then these areas will flush out first. These areas will flush out, and it will sort of spread from here up the slope and down the slope, and vegetation will get a bit thicker to a point where, very similar to how we were in February or January last year, where sitting underneath these bushes, grass will be taller than our heads and, you know, lovely and thick and lush. Now, what got me going here was there seems to be a bird party here. Now, bird parties are groups of birds that are moving through an area at the same time that are utilizing a common food source or mobbing a predator. But before I get to that explanation, I just want to answer Joy's question this morning. Joy, you want to know, are my legs getting wet from the dew this morning? Joy, not really. It's dry completely here at the moment. You can see my shoes are not wet at all. Generally here in summer, my shoes would already be squelching, and these sock protectors would be completely saturated at this particular point. So there's nothing, and it's because we haven't really started the rain just yet. The rains came in September, where we had our first decent rainstorm of the season, but we won't start seeing an increase in rainfall until about mid-November here. Going from mid-November to about mid-March is when we have our rainy season here. And that would increase the humidity levels and, of course, dew and everything that goes with it as well. So from now, over the next sort of 10-15 days or so, Joy, you'll start seeing the clouds building up in the afternoons, and we'll start to get some more thunder showers. Let's hold thumbs, it's not a dry year again. And hopefully, come have a look here, and hopefully we'll be able to have those squelchy feet again, which is just one of the costs of walking around in summer. Now, there's a locust inside there, or grasshopper, and that grasshopper spent the evening resting just there. Now, for insects who are active during the day, like grasshoppers, they need an increase in the temperature to reach a certain point. That'll happen as the sun rises up above the horizon. Their metabolism will increase, and as their metabolism increases, they'll start to get active, with grasshoppers and butterflies pretty much being most active around lunchtime. As it starts to get cooler, these animals will start to look for places to rest up during the evening, and one of the best places is to just rest up on a branch, sometimes under it, sometimes under some leaves, but in this case of a grasshopper, in the open, and to sleep. And they will keep dead still. In actual fact, I could probably touch this guy and he wouldn't move, probably, I say. There we go. Which is so unlike grasshoppers in the middle of the day. Generally, as soon as they get warm, you touch them and the grasshopper is off. But grasshoppers have these massive legs, these massively muscled back legs. You can see there, that is all just one big muscle that they can contract and shoot themselves off of a branch. And if they were obviously sitting underneath a branch or underneath a leaf, they wouldn't be able to get away and utilize those long legs. So if a predator had to come about and startled the grasshopper, he just launched himself into the darkness, hoping that he gets away from whatever predator it is. Other insects will utilize a whole range of different sort of protective measures to keep them safe in their periods of inactivity, and they will sleep. They will go into periods of rest. I don't know if it's the same sort of sleep as you and I are used to, but it definitely is a period where they're not present. They're in a state of consciousness far below full wakefulness, that's for sure. They're grass eaters, and I'm 100% sure that given enough temperature, these guys will just spring off and carry on eating grass for the rest of the day. Now our bird party has moved off, which is unfortunate. So bird parties, you'll hear a lot of the presenters speaking about bird parties. It's when a bunch of different species of birds seem to be congregating around something specific. Generally it's either food, so something is there that they're all utilizing together, or they're mobbing a predator, so an eagle or an owl or a hawk or a falcon of some sort. And there was a bunch of birds headed up by whatever that was. I think that is a white-crowned shrike making some noises, but they've all moved off now, and so just that one member of the shrike family left over. In the meantime, why don't we go and see what Noel is up to.
So yesterday morning, Sens and I picked up beautiful tracks from the Styx Pride, and we tracked them out of our area, out the western boundary. They walked along the southern boundary, and then we said, oh, they're gone, and we carried on with life. We were going to go to Twin Dams yesterday morning. Then, what did they do? They looped around on the southern side of our southern boundary where we can't drive and rocked up back at Twin Dams. Last night, when Tristan had them there, they moved away north. I haven't picked up their tracks yet, so north would be behind us. But what I'm doing this morning, because I'm still learning how they move about, I'm going straight to Twin Dams. Maybe they've looped around again, maybe not. We will have to see. Okay, Jennifer, your pick for what mammal we're going to see is a waterbuck. Well done, Jennifer, okay? So I'm on the elephant, Jennifer, you're on the waterbuck. And Linda says a leopard. Lovely Linda with her leopard. Let's see if we can get an alliteration out of that. Fabulous. Senzo still hasn't picked one, he's still thinking. Oh, he says he doesn't want to be obvious and pick lions. I'm just picking lions for you, Senzo. So we have a nice list. Louise, you want to see a honey badger? Well done. Okay, so we've got a waterbuck, a honey badger, elephant, lion, leopard. I like it. I like it. Okay, so we will see who wins. Lots of hyena tracks around. But now that I say that, no one's allowed to pick hyena. Although, no, it's fine. You must pick. They're very hard to track. They do whatever they want. So for whoever was not with us yesterday afternoon, again, Tris had the Styx Pride with a wonderful elephant interaction at Twin Dams. Myself, what did we do? Ooh, we had Battler and a giraffe and a lilac-breasted roller, some normal creatures out and about, and then we got one of the Birmingham males who had a huge dread on the bottom of his mane, which he kept trying to lick. He couldn't quite get to it, so that was lovely. And I think up in the Mara we had I mentioned a dread for the male lion. Senzo has dread, so he says like mine. Yes, you're a male lion, Senzo. You can be that particular Birmingham male. Senzo's in a cheeky mood this morning, as am I apparently. Oh, so everybody would like to see The baby hippo. Oh my goodness, lion tracks up and down, up and down. Yeah, we can definitely see if we can try that. James yesterday asked for the hatchling crocs. So let's see what happens with our lion tracks that we've picked up now. And then we can definitely try and make a plan to get over to Chitwa Dam. If we don't make it this morning, we will try for sure for this afternoon. For anyone that missed it the other day as well, there's also an even newer baby hippo, littler than Boo. We had, yes, Jean-Dre was with me on camera. We had the most amazing interaction of this female just after she'd given birth. We didn't see the birth, but just after she'd given birth, and then another female with an older youngster eating the amniotic sac. It was just absolutely incredible. That has to be one of the highlights of my month, probably of this year. It was amazing. I was thoroughly excited, thoroughly impressed. All right, so our tracks back there with the lions were up and down and up and down and up and down. I just want to circle around the dam here. The light is really pretty. It's going to be a very hot day today. I can already feel the warmth, and it's only like 20 past 5. Zento's even taking off his jacket. It's warm. Ooh, Steph's got a summer visitor for us. Let's head on over to him and check out the beautiful colors.
Yes, we have. It's a violet-backed starling, and they came back a few weeks ago and are one of my favorite birds to see out in the bush. And I'm very glad that we can show you. Generally speaking, these birds are actually quite difficult to show you on camera because they're fairly active, as you can see from him flying away there. Now, I'm just keeping my eye on him. They are hole nesting birds, and they come down to South Africa in the summer months to come and nest here. And a bird like that was behaving atypically, generally speaking, is because there's something that we're not understanding. And in my experience, that non-understanding is almost always linked to breeding behavior. And they nest about this high off the ground, so between sort of this high and about this high off the ground, in cavities in wood, in dead trees. And one of the best trees for cavitation are these trees here that Jean-Dre is stuck up on now. This is a terminalia tree, and they hollow out very nicely and have cavities inside. And I think that is exactly what this particular violet-backed starling has been looking for, is a cavity in one of these trees. This is also interesting. What happened here? So this is a porcupine that is dug here last night, and you can see that it's chewed up this tuber. Now what's interesting about this sort of thing is the fact that these animals almost always can figure out where their food lies. Have a look at that. A very juicy tuber. I mean, you can have a look at how much moisture is inside here. Now, what tuber this is from, who knows? I don't want to taste that. Now, generally speaking, it's not a good idea to put things that porcupine have had in their mouth in yours, because they have got a tolerance for toxins that we don't. I don't think it doesn't taste very toxic, but definitely not the nicest thing to put in my mouth this morning. Definitely porcupine food. Now, porcupines are fairly common rodents around here. They're the largest rodent that we find in this particular area, and they get quite big. They get, as the actual animal is about this big, their spines and everything end up being about this big. Good like 20 pounds, 12 kilograms of porcupine. And they hang around sometimes in these family groups with one another and can actually do a lot of damage around the camp area. They're quite prone to digging up water pipes and chewing through water pipes, and for that reason, not here, but for that reason they are trapped in some areas. And the trade in porcupine quills over the last couple of years has picked up, and in my opinion sort of picked up similar to pangolin scales, and I'm seeing so many porcupine quills and so many pangolin scales inside crafts markets at the moment that, you know, you just have to remember that those types of things always come from a living animal, and it's not a good idea to go and buy those things, not in my opinion at least anyway. Hello there. This is a young greenthorn, and these are always nice trees to have a look at. The greenthorn is a protected tree in this particular area, and I will answer Anna Marie's question. Now, Anna Marie, you wanted to know if we're going to be seeing an increase in snake sightings. And funnily enough, as I walked up to this tree and stuck my hand out, I was thinking, can I see any snake inside here or not? Because it's a perfect tree for snakes to lie in. These thorns offer snakes the purchase that they need to shed their skin, and quite often inside greenthorns you'll find the shed skins of snakes. And of course, snakes, venomous snakes out here, there are the boomslang, one of the world's most venomous snakes. At night time they curl up in trees like this, especially the males, which are the same green color as the tree itself, and they rest up in these things. And whenever I see a green tree, I'm always like, I want to touch it, and then put my hand back and then go back. So no, Anna Marie, you're quite right in that we can see and expect an increase in snakes sightings. The activity periods will stretch out as the days are warmer for longer, and we should start seeing an increase in snakes here. But to come back to the greenthorn itself, and this is quite interesting that I've seen this now, because traditionally speaking, when this tree has been used as the bark gets used as it's got saponins in it, which means that you can take slivers of this bark and you can put it into water and froth it up, and there's soap in it. And the soap leaves you feeling quite refreshed and fresh after you wash yourself with it. And so the traditional use for this tree is that when you're doing something new for the first time, or you want some luck, a job interview for instance, you can take slivers of this bark, make a wash from it, wash with it, and you'll be clean and sparkly for your interview, and it make you shine over and above other candidates. And so this tree, outside of the protected areas, you don't find a lot of it because of the fact that it's harvested to death. Now, as you can see on the eastern side of this particular tree, there's a sliver of bark missing. Now, while I don't think that this has been harvested by a traditional medicine collector, it allows me to tell you about a secret I was told by a traditional healer in collecting bush medicine, and that you always collect on the eastern side of the tree and never anywhere else. And so this just so happens to be facing the rising sun and due east, and because this tree has been collected, or it looks like it's been collected already, the traditional healer that follows the old ways would always move off and not collect anything more from this tree and let the tree repair itself and basically survive. And so you always only collect from the eastern side of the tree. And if you are digging for roots, which is where much more than half of the tree's good lies in, you always collect at the base of the tree, and you can actually almost see, I wonder if the tree hasn't been collected actually. You can see that the tree has got a depression on the eastern side, and if you are digging for roots, you only dig on the eastern side. You dig down next to the tree for the roots, you collect. What is that? That wasn't very fun to touch. Something was moving underneath there. So you collect on the eastern side of the tree, you collect from the roots when you get down to them, and then the hollow that's left fills up with leaves and sticks and a bunch of compost, really, or composting material. Rainwater will sit inside there, rot it further, and so the tree gets a nice mineral and nutrient injection, which helps it repair. It's only on the eastern side. Where's that millipede gone now? That is crawling up here. Here he is, yeah. So this millipede was heading up the tree and was more than likely just heading into an area that was uncontested from other members of its species to look for some fungus. They eat detritus, so for the most part these guys are mushroom eaters, and we'll start seeing a lot more of them over the coming months. Alright, we're going to send you over to Noelle, who's got an update on what she's up to.
Hi. We have lion tracks, so we've circled. We had lion tracks earlier as well. Sorry everyone, I'm just busy following because it's just the one set. If it's the whole pride moving in the road, you can very easily see. But right now it's just the one set, and it's looking to me like a male. And we could see the tracks moving away from last night, and then there was one set of female tracks going back towards the dam, and now this is one set of male tracks coming around, and the ground is just a little bit difficult to track here, so I'm concentrating pretty hard, but they are pretty much sticking to the road. Now, not last night, but the night before, we talked about how the sticks were looking hungry, and we're probably going to hunt. And from what I can see thus far from this morning, is that looks like what's happened. Now I just need to, hopefully, find them and show you whatever the result of last night's hunting was. Jake, that's a really good question. You're wondering what I mean by the tracks going up and down. So you've got one set of tracks going up in one direction, and then you've got other tracks, the same tracks coming back down, so they're on top of each other. So it's like you walking and then changing your mind and turning around and walking, and then changing your mind and turning around and walking down. That means up and down, up and down. So basically it's confusing you can't pick which precise direction you think the tracks are going because they're all on top of each other. And it takes a little bit longer to figure out the general direction of where they want to go. That's a good question. Thank you for helping me clarify that. Senzo, these cheeky lions. Okay, so now I've reached a point. I lost my tracks back there. Oh, there's hornbills. Dark Star, you're asking how can I tell the lion's tracks from the gender from the tracks. A male lion tends to have more of a square pad on top, and a female more of a round pad. But remember, a male lion is much larger than a female. So a male lion, his tracks are the size of my hand. So that's the size of a normal book you would put on your shelf. Well, a guidebook. This is probably the size of, I don't know if you guys have any birding books at home, or like a large novel when they do large print, okay? So it's pretty big, whereas a female's track is going to be about like that. That's the best way I can think of to describe it sort of size-wise. But look, everything comes in small, medium, and large, so when they're still going through their growing process, when they're becoming adults, then there's different features. And every guide has a different way of knowing. The one I've given you just now is a very general, broad way. And sometimes you'll get male or female tracks that show tendencies towards a little bit more female or a little bit more male. It happens. It's similar to humans. You get very, very masculine looking men, and you get what we would call feminine looking men, but it's just sort of softer features, and the same with women. But yeah, that's in general. With humans, it's a little bit harder. Like, I have giant sized man feet, and my little sister has tiny little women feet, and that's just a little cultural construct that we've come up with. But yes, there's a definite difference. With leopard, different people have different ways. There's corners and sixes, and for me, it's one of those things where it's a male or it's a female, and it's a photograph library that you build up in your head time and time and time and time again. So if you've never seen a lion track and you just see one, and you get explained that's a lion track, you might not be able to decide male or female. But you constantly put together these overlapping pictures in your head until you formulate and you just know. It's part of being able to do what we do in practice and time out in the field. Good questions. Okay. Let's see if we can find them again. These tracks. And then if we can get male-female tracks side by side, I will definitely show them to you. Look, the general... Oh, there we go. Is that him? Here we go. This is a really nice sequence. Of course, I'm going to unplug. The light's not the best. Senzo, how is this one showing up? Is that one showing up okay, or do you want me to do the farther one? How is this track showing up? Yeah? Okay. So this is the back track. This is the front track. He's walking at a quick pace. His back foot's in front of his front foot. So, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. What you can see here is a very square looking pad. This is that male we were tracking a few mornings ago. He's got a skiff funny left front foot. A skiff is a skew funny left front foot. And it's very, we don't usually draw on the tracks, but I'm going to draw it today. So you've got this sort of square top, and then it comes around like this. And here are the toes. And then I'm going to put my hand inside. And then next to it, so you can see. That's the size of my hand, roughly. And he's carrying straight up. There was a diker in the bush there. And I was like, oh, no, not a lion. So it's possible that he's with the pride, but it's also possible, remember we had the other brothers up on the Biffles Hook boundary, and they went north from there. So he might be looking for them, but I have a feeling he's still with the pride. And then while I'm busy tracking, let's head on over to Steph, see what he has.
I'm chuckling because what you're looking at is essentially just a hole in a tree. And Jean's comment just before you arrived was, this is exactly the type of inland rush he was looking for this morning. Which is, Jean woke up this morning and said he wants to walk something dangerous because he's leaving to Kenya today. And and what I found was a hole in a tree. But I mean, basically what that is, it's evidence of honey collectors, evidence of honey collectors. You can see that the bottom of that hole has been cut square, and then on either side it's angled in. And if you look really closely, you can even see old axe marks on the side of that. Now, this reserve has been operational for about 60 years. People haven't lived inside this area for at least long. Tambwetis are incredibly old trees and can grow to massive ages. And they do get hollowed out by fungus, and bees will move into cavities. And people have been collecting honeys pretty much for as long as people have been walking around upright in Africa, I think. And that is evidence there of quite a sophisticated honey collecting, I don't even know what to say there. I mean, it's evidence of sophistication around the collection of honey, because it would have needed an iron implement to chop that open. And although people have been living here for thousands of years with the ability to produce iron, to produce a grade of iron strong enough to chop a tambweti is relatively recently, and I'm talking about probably the last 100 years or so. Now, it's very difficult for me to say when that was utilized by this particular honey collector, but the hunter-gatherers of this area would have had specific trees that they would have maintained very carefully. Chop it too wide and the bees don't move in. Chop it too small and you can't get enough honey. And so the honey collectors used to take pride in their trees and in their ability to attract bees and the obvious resultant beehives as frequent as possible. And this tree would have belonged to a specific person. No other person would have been able to collect honey from his particular tree. And it's funny, that it just so happens to be relatively close to camp. I think we're probably about 2 miles from camp. Camp is in that direction over there, and people have been settled in this area. There's a spring that Vuyatela Lodge was built around. And when I speak to the older trackers in this area, they used to say that people used to move into the Vuyatela area, their grandfather's grandfather, with the cattle, because the spring never dried up. And because of that, cattle always had enough water, cattle and people always had enough water. And of course, the people that were living off of the bush a lot more in those days would have had their honey. Isn't that nice? Nice story. So definitely an iron implement. And definitely in the last couple of 100 years, I suppose. Now, Cape Turtle Dove, you'd like to know if there's been any word on the. I'm assuming the pot that we found, Kirsty, is that? Sorry, I didn't. No, there hasn't actually. To be honest with you, Cape Turtle Dove. We refound the termite mound a couple of weeks ago on a walk with myself and Herbie. I dug inside the termite mound, and it had been completely covered by some silt. It had been silted up, the depression where we found the pot, and I didn't want to damage the pot, and so we left it just as is. The last year, with us being in Kenya and with Yuri being as busy as what he has, Yuri is the owner of Djuma, we haven't had the chance. All of us have been on the same property at the same time. Can you believe it? In more than a year, we haven't had the right members of the family that is predominant in this area, plus the owner of the reserve, plus us, to go up to that pot and to sit there and decide whether or not it's where someone was buried, or whether it was a bank of some sort. And so we're just leaving the spirits at ease over there. I'm not going to go dig around in there without anything else. All right, we're going to be sending you over to a giraffe, and I'm not too sure who is looking at that giraffe, but you're going to be having a look at one in any case. And see you just now.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to the Masai Mara. It is a beautiful morning, and this is certainly a beautiful scene. Topi, zebra, giraffe with two little youngsters, and there's even a herd of wildebeest nearby, and they've been gossiping with one another. I hope they continue. It's such a wonderful noise to hear, and we're very lucky to still have such large herds around at this time of the year. And I'm loving hearing them. Wah, 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 wah. Come on. They've got stage fright. They've been chatting the whole morning and have just stopped now. Well, I hope you've been enjoying the treasure hunt with Steph. Interesting stuff. And myself and Manu are looking forward to another day on the eastern side of the Mara River. It will be our last drive on this side. After the safari, we will be heading back to the Safari Live base camp up on the Olololo escarpments. And we are hoping to try and scoop up Malaika, a female cheetah, and her two boys in the area that we're going to move through. She's been hanging around an area called Double Crossing for the last few days, so with a bit of luck we can find her and have one last dose of cheetah action. Wonderful. Let's have another look at this giraffe and her youngster. The one in the middle there has got the smallest youngster, and I'm told a lot of you are loving the giraffe, so I'm glad we've gone back to a view of them. Is that youngster nursing? It looks like it could be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition the vehicle ever so slightly. We're a long way away, and I'm sure we won't interfere with what they're getting up to. And I also just want to be able to swivel the vehicle around so that we can show you a view of the magical sunrise once we're done with the giraffe. Let's have another look at the giraffe though now. All the animals seem to be quite bubbly this morning. The topi were running around earlier, so were the wildebeest. The giraffe are looking quite focused, so I'm wondering if there isn't anything that's causing a bit of a stir. How cute is that little baby? Hard to guess how old it is. We are looking at it from quite a distance, but I'd say around a month or so, I'm guessing. I haven't seen any umbilical cord, and that can even stay attached for 2 weeks to a month, I'm told. It dries out like what we in South Africa would call a piece of biltong, which is essentially jerky. Let's see though if this youngster doesn't turn broadside to us if we don't get a view of the umbilical cord, because I haven't been able to get a good view just yet. What a cute scene. Maybe Mom's just looking very alert because of the fact that she's got a youngster that she's concerned about. Hello Kitty Kitty Bang Bang, you would like to know if I have seen any live births whilst being in the Mara, or if any of us have, and no, I don't think we have. Interestingly, my first ever live drive, within the first 5 minutes I saw a wildebeest giving birth, and that was the first and last time I've ever seen a wild animal do that. So, got off to an incredible start, and actually quite a few births were filmed that season in November 2014 on the quarantine clearings of Djuma. Just want to hang around a bit. I've got a feeling that maybe this baby giraffe is going to have some morning playtime sprinting around. We've actually been looking at the wrong baby. The small one's actually here. I don't know how I managed to get confused as to which one was smaller, but this one is much smaller. And you can see its umbilical cord. You can see the little piece of biltong or jerky just dangling there from its belly button, I guess. And who knows, maybe this guy is only about 2 weeks to a month old. Cute. You can see how much bigger its partner is. Well, not its partner, its cousin. Even, let's take a close look at the little ossicones. They're still flat on its head. They haven't even had time to straighten out, and that's obviously from the way it was squashed inside its mom's tummy. You look so cute. Ah! What a hairstyle. You must embrace this hairstyle because it's not going to last for long. Soon you're going to look like all the other giraffe with regular, more business-like hairstyles. You've got a very funky one. There we go. Not nearly as impressive. Just leaning around and just making sure there's nothing behind us, because they are staring very intently in our direction. It could be that they're looking at us. Maybe they find Manu working the camera a fascinating scene. I think it's actually worth showing you guys Manu in his outfit, so let me get everything ready here to do that. Okay, Manu, you're in business. So there's Manu. He's well dressed and ready for the occasion. Very good. Let's keep an eye on this tiny little giraffe there for a while and see what it gets up to. Because I think we're going to possibly get some moments of cuteness here. It'll be so cool if we see them running around. Ah, now we've got another great view of its hairstyle. Please get the mad sprints. Come on. Now, the sun did poke through for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then it's disappeared behind a big bank of clouds. Oh, are you going to try and have some breakfast? Awesome. No ways. That is too good to be true. Looks like Mom's possibly not interested in the little Bubba's advancements there. I think the Bubba was trying to possibly suggest to Mom that she would like some milk. And Mom now has strolled off to say no. Now Bubba's just looking on, bemused as to why can't have some more milk. A hot air balloon in the distance. Magical, magical scenes. Oh, flying shot, Manu. Sandgrass. Ooh, are they all dropping down? I think they are. Well done. Most of them have dropped. Oh, those are actually rock pigeons now, but there were some sandgrass flying amongst them. Nice one. It's good to keep the cameraman in check, to give them the odd flying shot when they're not expecting it. Well done, Manu. Okay, now I'm told a lot of you are wondering if this little Bubba giraffe is a boy or a girl. I'm not too sure. Let's try and get a little bit closer. We've spent quite a bit of time here with them now, so I'm confident by creeping forward slowly by slowly, we shouldn't make them nervous. So hopefully with a closer view we will be able to work out if it's a boy or girl, but it is very difficult when giraffe are babies, I find. Very, very difficult. Let's have a close look now. I can't be certain. That umbilical cord is still quite wobbly. It's dried up a bit, definitely. Maybe it's not wobbly. Maybe it was just very thin at the end and just blowing in the wind. Panda, you think it's a girl? I actually can't. I don't even feel confident hazarding a guess. I think it's just so underdeveloped at this stage that it's difficult to tell. But Panda, maybe you're right. I certainly don't consider myself an expert with regards to tiny little baby giraffe and knowing their sex. I think it's doing some yoga, and I think we need to be ready for it to do a little bit of a run. I think it might try and run and catch up to Mom, because Mom's moving off. Please, can you run after Mom? Come on. Come on. No joy. I love it when they're young, their little tail fluffs, those little black tufts, are very short. By the time they're adults, they'll be about 30 or 40 centimeters long. So it looks quite strange compared to the adults. Not nearly as effective for swishing the flies as well. Morning, William. You've noticed that this youngster's face is very dark, and if that's normal or not. And I guess so. I mean, even if we look at the other youngster a little bit later, we'll notice that it's quite a lot paler than this one, but I think genetically some are just born slightly darker or lighter than others, and you'll probably find it may change a lot in its first few months. It may fade quite a lot, but I think it looks fairly normal to me. It does, interestingly, though, start very dark on the face, down to the neck and shoulders, and then fades towards the back end. That's clearly evident there. Wonderful. Okay, well, I think we're probably going to move on from the sighting, and we are going to be sending you back down to Steph, who has found another long-legged creature.
We definitely have. And talking about cavities in trees for bees and for violet-backed starlings, we found this cavity in this tree, and it is inhabited by a daddy long-legged spider, which is a very common spider in this area and around the world, as far as I know, but not so commonly seen out in the bush. What is more commonly seen is the violin spider, which is an incredibly venomous spider that we find out here underneath logs and generally under stumps, whereas in cavities the daddy longlegs is the predominant spider, and they have a web that can use a snare, basically, which sticks to the back of an insect and plucks them off of the ground and suspends them in the cobweb, and the spider then comes down and makes a meal of it. And the way that you tell the two apart from one another, because they actually look incredibly similar, is the fact that the daddy longlegs has white knees. And you might be able to see on this particular spider those white knees that is characteristic of the daddy longleg spider, whereas the violin spider has brown knees and the legs are pretty uniform in color. Another thing that we have over here, which I haven't seen in a long time, is this little yellow spider right here, the tip of my finger. That is a crab spider, and one of the first crab spiders that I'm seeing of the season. Completely different body shape to the daddy longleg spider, and that's because it has a completely different way of catching its prey. As you can see, this particular crab spider has massively elongated front legs. The front two legs, or the front pair of two legs in the front of its body, are big, robust, and almost look like they've been on a diet of spinach and cartoon. And the reason for that is that this spider captures flying insects, particularly flies and bees, straight out of the air. So a fly or a bee will come and land on the stump. The spider will then grab it, holding onto it with those very strong front legs, and then biting it with an incredibly virulent toxin, which is keyed to flying insects and almost instantaneously deadly for flies and for bees. And this little one usually is associated with flowers and with leaves the same color as it. What it's sitting on the stump for, I don't know, I'll put it down to the fact that it's probably just newly hatched and still busy deciding what it wants to do with its life. Isn't that cool? Now, Snazzy, you'd like to know if a daddy longlegs would fight. Kirsty, just repeat the question again if you don't mind. Oh, will a daddy longlegs bite? So, yeah, they have got. So there's an urban legend that says that the daddy longlegs' toxin is super deadly, and that the only reason why they don't bite and kill more people is that their fangs are not long enough to pierce human skin. They have got a toxin. They definitely are venomous. The venom does nothing to human beings. It is deadly for fish moths. Though fish moths and cockroaches find the toxin of a daddy longlegs almost the same as we would find arsenic or cyanide. And so, yes, they are capable of envenomating a human with their fangs. Their venom does nothing though, but I think the urban legend comes from the fact that violin spiders and daddy longlegs look very similar, barring those white knees. And people that have been bitten by something that looks like a daddy longleg spider have gotten very sick from it. And others haven't. And so I think that there's just been a little bit of a myth around that. They can absolutely bite. Their venom does nothing to us, luckily, but is deadly for fish moths and for cockroaches. Similar to this little crab spider up here. This particular crab spider's venom is deadly for bees and for flies, but does nothing to us. They can also give you a nasty nip, but one of the members of this particular family, the six-eyed crab spider, is absolutely deadly to mammals. So the six-eyed crab spider, which is a family of this particular crab spider, is South Africa's most venomous spider, and luckily doesn't occur here though for us. It occurs on the drier western parts of South Africa, and envenomations from that spider have the ability of killing a human. Sporty Amanda, you'd like to know how spiders find a mate, and that's actually quite an interesting question for today. So Sporty Amanda, broadly speaking, female spiders are sedentary and they live in webs. Male spiders are nomadic and they walk around looking for females. Female spiders will, when they are ready to want to be courted by a male, will start to give out pheromones. It's a type of perfume that is keyed to that particular male spider. That male spider will, or any male spider in that particular area, will react to those pheromones and start to hone in on the female. They then go through quite an elaborate courtship, and that's necessary, to prove to that female spider that the male that eventually gets it right to mate with her is the fittest of his particular species in that area. And she does that quite simply by eating them if they make a mistake. So female spiders will, if the male doesn't do his courtship dance well enough, or doesn't, it's not always a dance, but it doesn't court her well enough, she will eat him, and then the next male comes along. Until such a time as the cleverest male, or the fittest male, gets it right to inseminate her, and then she will basically lay some eggs. The male spider moves away. She'll then lay some eggs. She looks after those eggs for the season. Season comes to an end, and she dies off, and the baby spiders then hatch the next season, and the whole dance starts again. So this particular spider is probably a female daddy longleg spider. She'll be living in this hole because that's the best place for her. She'll start to give off some pheromones fairly soon. Male daddy longlegs will congregate here. They will do their courtship. Hopefully one of them will make it. The rest will all provide dinner and lunch and breakfast for her and get it right to inseminate her eggs, and then she will then have egg cases that are inside there, and the next generation will carry on. All right, we're going to go and have a look and see what Noel is busy doing.
All right, so our lions, of course, are giving us the runaround. And the area that they've gone into, that I've tracked them into, is very difficult with the vehicle. So what I've done is I've actually handed over our tracks to Rexon, who's busy with guests. I know Rexon helps us a lot with walks, but he's got his own guest this morning. I've handed the tracks over to him and his tracker, and they're going to follow up from where I had to leave them. They're heading into a little bit of a funny area for us, and he has now given us leopard tracks that he wants us to follow, so we're basically swapping over. But that being said, I still want to check Treehouse Dam and just triple check to see what's potting there, if anything's potting there, and then we'll go pick up where Rex left off, and he's going to get on foot with his tracker and head into the area that we left them in. So for me, like with Rexon and his guests that he's got now, Rexon can leave his guests for up to sort of 15-20 minutes, but I can't really leave you guys for more than about 5 minutes at a time, just because of the way that it works. So we have to do things piecemeal, and then this is where the juncture of the guides that we work with on the property, along with all of us, come together to help find everybody the animals that we're looking for. And Rexon's guests as well are super keen for lions this morning. So it works well. It works very, very well. Okay. So, no one guessed impala, but we've taken impala out of our game. We haven't seen anything other than impala yet this morning. So we still have our list of elephant, lion, leopard, honey badger, and water buck. Yeah, and water buck. Kirsten, was it Jennifer that chose water buck? And Linda for leopard. Alright, I think it's going to be between the two of you, to be honest. It's getting a bit warm for a honey badger, not that it couldn't happen. I also haven't seen a honey badger in forever. I would love to see a honey badger. Okay, Treehouse Dam. Can anyone remember when we saw Shadow last? Was it the night that the afternoon that the hyenas took her kill? So I think that was 3 afternoons ago. She might be around. Okay. I'm just checking nicely, because sometimes when I turn like this and we're looking into camera, I'm missing everything behind me. I have Senzo's amazing eyes, but he also has to do his camera work. So it's nice to just be able to scan and check and see. Elephants. That's why we check and scan and see. Do you see them, Sens? Really? You're gonna go stand behind the tree and just show us your bum? So, I spy with my little eye an elephant. Oh my goodness, I actually won the game. I never win the game. Yay! Alright. Senzo says it doesn't count because it's just the bum of the elephant. Alright, let's see if we can reposition for a better view, because that is a very long distance bum visual. And while we're busy with that, we are going to head up to the Masai Mara, where Scott has sub-Saharan Africa's largest antelope species on display for you to have a beautiful look at.
Hello everyone. What a beautiful scene this is. Sorry, I'm talking out of breath because I've been hunched over taking pictures of this wonderful scene. Hope Noelle gets lucky with both the lion hunting as well as her hopes for finding a honey badger. That would be a wonderful surprise, or bonus really, because you don't see honey badgers very often. Magical. We were flying down this road, trying to act like a hovercraft, as the roads are quite corrugated, and then we jammed on brakes to stop for this magical scene. We are rushing to try and get in towards the area called Double Crossing. It's probably about a mile or so away from us, and we're hoping that we're going to find Malaika, a female cheetah, and her 2 boys somewhere in that general area. They've been camped out there the last 2 days, so with a little bit of luck. Oh, and some zebra also silhouetted. Well done, Manu. It's all happening here. Very, very peaceful morning. Haven't seen one other game viewer around, so the reserve is quite quiet at the moment, which is great. I mean, it's different to, I mean, there's benefits to both really. When the reserve's busy, lots of people are working together to find sightings. When it's quiet, you've got to work a bit harder on your own, but you have definitely got a feeling of more freedom when there's less people around to go and explore areas and have the feeling that nobody's driven there before you. So, we should be there in the next 5 minutes or so. Oh, you said I'm not going fast enough to hovercraft. There we go, now we're hovercrafting. That's better. Otherwise you literally feel every little bump. Whereas now we are floating above the bumps. What I'm probably actually going to do just up ahead here is stop and do a bit of a scan with my bars, because we've got a great vista and maybe this way we'll be able to spot the cheetah from a distance. There's so much general game around which can deceive you. You can often think, well, there's not going to be a predator here with just game dotted all over the plains, but that's definitely not the case. Good. Well, wish us luck on our search for the cheetah. We are going to be sending you back to bushwalk with Steph.
One of the most interesting things about bushwalk is finding bits and bobs and insects that are amazing. And I have an insect here. I'm going to put the grass stalk down on top of it and see if you can actually see it. Whoop, okay. And now, you'll see it jump away. Now to try and find it again, because I didn't see where it landed, is going to be a challenge. So I think the easiest would be is just to make it jump again. No? It disappeared. Oh well, so much for me showing you an invisible grasshopper. I suppose it's exactly that at the moment, an invisible grasshopper. I got Kirsty going, this is a great sighting. No, definitely.
All right, everyone, let's listen really carefully to how they sound moving through this grass. Can we all hear that? Absolutely beautiful. Everyone, they're going to make their way towards Treehouse Dam for a drink. So just before we saw the elephant, and then we linked away, and then we've come back. And just before we found them again to reposition for visual for you all, Senzo found some leopard tracks. So we're going to leave those leopard tracks right now. We're going to follow these elephants down to the water hole and get a beautiful view and enjoy that sighting, and then come back to leopard tracks. But I think for now, we're not far from the dam. We're maybe 100 meters. We're going to have to drive into the sun just a little bit. Sorry, car. Sorry, Wendy. I hit a stump. Just a little bit, but then we are going to get a very, very, very nice view. And because there's lots of youngsters here, and it is only, sort of 10 past 6, and it already feels like it's about 32 degrees, we might get a little bit of action. You never know. Yeah, see, Senzo's taking his jacket off. It's hot today. Did you all notice when they were coming past us, they formed a little line? All the youngsters were in the middle. Just sort of a way of protecting themselves. And now they've staggered themselves. We've got one adult female in the front here. We've got the little ones, and then the other adult females have sort of positioned themselves in a manner where if they needed to do anything to protect themselves, to protect their young, I should say, they can very quickly converge. Hello, little one. Yeah, I see you. Little female there. Future matriarch, possibly. Giving us a bit of attitude. We watched that male lion last night. We watched how he walked, because we talk a lot about his tracks. Watch how these elephants are walking. Remember, elephants don't have 4 legs. They have 2 arms and 2 legs. So they're putting their front limbs down, and then their back limbs, and their back foot is going on top of and slightly in front of the front foot. Shlombi and Love, Puzamati, Treehouse Dam. Just letting the guys know we have elephants here. We don't want to hide any sightings. It's mean. I'm going to quickly come around. This is going to be beautiful. Sorry, Mama. Ooh, Steph has an amazing eagle owl. Let's quickly go to him before it flies away, and then you can come back and watch our Elise have a drink.
So we've got an eagle owl in the tree here that's very camouflaged, that's being mobbed by a group of go-away birds. And I remember this morning I said a bird party mobbing predators. Well, owls, one of the things that they mob quite a lot of. Now, the eagle owl is, if you follow the dark curve of the Tamboti genre, as it comes out of as it turns, a foot above it, in the tree just above it, is where it's sitting. Let's see if we move across a little bit and just see its eyes. So, for those of you who are busy staring at a piece of green grass, wondering what we're having a look at, there's a bird the size of a chicken inside there. Now, we're going to see if we can get you in a little bit more. There we go. Now those go-away birds that you're hearing now have attracted a bunch of other birds. There's woodpeckers inside here. Oh, it's just fantastic. Now the reason why they're mobbing this owl is this owl will prey on these birds given the choice or given the chance. And what they're doing is they're busy shouting at everything around. Look, there's a predator here. And trying to get the predator to actually move out of its cover and away from where they are at the moment. Now that owl will be very reluctant to want to move because, of course, wherever he lands, he's drawing attention to himself and he's just going to get mobbed for the rest of the day. There he goes. Now, did you hear the birds all shout, go, go? And that's where they get their name from, the go-away bird, and that they mob these particular predators. Awesome, I'm glad I got to show you that. Anyway, I'm going to send you back over to Noel and her elephant.
Alright, so they had a very, very, very quick drink, but only half the herd had a drink. The other half didn't even come down. They just kept walking. So I have a feeling that they're going to wait till they get to possibly twin dams before they have a drink. But this is a beautiful little parade of elephants. That's the collective noun for Ellie's, is a parade. Yana, you're wondering how much water an elephant can drink in a day. That's a very good question. So a large male elephant can hold up to 10 liters of water in its trunk at one time. And when they drink, on average, they're going to be down on a hot day. They might go 2 or 3 times to water. Let's just say 2, and they're going to spend sort of 15-20 minutes drinking. I would say close to 200 liters for a big male in a day, but I'm thumb-sucking a little bit. I'm guesstimating. It's my educated guess. Again, it's going to depend on temperature. It's going to depend on the individual itself, and it's also going to depend on the movements that it's done. But let's say for a big male, round about something like that, not more, especially on a hot day. Sorry, Sens? Sorry, there's something wrong with my mic pack today. Excuse me while I undressed a little. Senzo, is that better? Can everybody hear me now? Okay. That's okay. Let's follow these Ellies. So for those of you who don't know, so you guys can hear me properly, I've got this special... Oh, well, same to you, sir. Excuse me. That wasn't for us. That was for the little one. I've got this little pack that fits a mic, and it sits around my rib cage. And it's so I can communicate with everybody, because without it, you would never hear a single word I said. Probably just hear the wind. So sometimes as I'm moving about, as you all know, I'm in and out of the car, and I'm moving here and I'm moving there. It gets a little bit dislodged, but I can't actually hear myself. You all can hear me, and Kursk can hear me, and Senzo can hear me, so sometimes they just let me know something's not quite right. Okay. Half the herd is walking down the outflow, and half the herd is walking on the road. So we're going to drive on the road behind them. Dark Star, you're wondering if that water is safe for humans to drink. So Dark Star, Look, humans can drink any kind of water. It's just whether or not you want to have bad tummy problems afterwards. So yes, you can drink it. It's not going to taste very nice, and you might have the trots for a while afterwards. But you know, if you're thirsty, you're thirsty. I'm not going to go. If I've got nice RO water next to me. It's been filtered through several times. I'm going to stick with that water for now. I wouldn't, but if I was walking through the bush and I didn't have anything else, yeah, I would definitely drink that. Why do you have to move to the other road, elephants? It's always the way. So we started following half the herd down the road. They've now decided they like the other place where the other elephants are, and they are headed over there. But we will come up and get another view for you. They're all basically going in the same direction. But it's interesting, you've got this female and her youngster sort of leading everybody. And then by the herd splitting, what I mean is we had the ones that were drinking, this female and her youngster moved off.
Coming to you live out of the bush does have its problems. Every now and again the signal goes away, and that's why you arrived so quickly and unannounced with me, is that no one had to reposition. But what we're having a look at over here is a squirrel that is giving a big alarm call in that dead tree. Now, let me see if I can show you that big large dead tree in the distance there. About halfway up where the main stem branches, you'll see a tail flick. You can just see some movement there. Let me see here. Have a look. That was just me bumping Andre. There you go. There you've got the squirrel. Now, that is exactly the type of alarm calls that we look for when we're looking for predators in the area. Squirrels like that will shout at leopard. They also shout at snakes. They also, unfortunately, shout at almost every single thing that could possibly even imagine hurting a squirrel. And so they are reliable to a point. They definitely warrant some investigation, and that's what we're going to be going to go and have a look at there. And that squirrel being up in the tree looking down at the ground does definitely say that whatever it's busy having a look at over there is not airborne. And that is another just tick in the box of looking for something here. Now, this area is frequented by a number of different leopard, and what I'm hoping for is that we get some sign of a leopard somewhere around here. And we're going to go and have a look and see what we can see. Now, the trick is to not approach directly at the squirrel and to keep wind direction in mind. To do that, as you can see, I have some ash in a sock. The wind is blowing directly into our face, which is good, which means that we can approach from this direction without fear of wafting our scent onto whatever's down there. Now, of course, some people might think you're mad walking up to a place where there's potentially a lion or a leopard, but really it's the only way that we get to find these guys is by tracking them mostly on foot. Right. See what we've got here. There's a bit of a depression here, which means that we stand the chance of losing signal, which also means that I'm going to be sticking to the edge of this drainage line and we'll look down into the drainage line. If there is a leopard walking here, they'd be walking around in the middle. Let's go and see. The squirrel has now stopped making a noise, which of course they would do if whatever predator they were having a look at had moved off. And that then says to me that it's nothing big. It's most likely then going to be a mongoose or even a snake. Now, snakes wouldn't react to squirrels giving the alarm call, and the reason for that is that snakes are deaf and only really feel using the vibrations that they feel through their bodies. And wouldn't have moved off because the squirrel was making an alarm call. but would have just sailed into a place where, or slithered into a place, sailed, that's a direct translation from Afrikaans, slithered into a place where you couldn't, or the squirrel couldn't see it anymore. If it was a bird of prey, they absolutely would react to the squirrel's alarm call and fly away. And generally speaking, I've watched leopard get quite irritated and agitated at squirrels making alarm calls, and they'd move away. But for sure, that squirrel has stopped calling now. And that says to me that he's not looking at a leopard at all. Oh, we're going to wait here a little bit. It's nice and open here. We can see over there, see if something's moving across in the open. It also gives me a chance to chat to you about this tall white squill. This is a plant that we only see really flowering at the beginning of the season, and it's called a tall white squill, and generally grow up like this. I mean, I want to say it seems like it's overnight. It probably isn't, but you only start realizing that they're there when they get to about this height. You never see them smaller than this, and it's almost like they magically appear overnight. Now, the interesting thing for me about this particular plant is that it flowers in a wave. So the flowers will start at the base and then will come up in a wave, almost like a Mexican wave. At this moment, these flowers here are flowering, and that's because the plant doesn't want to pollinate itself. Isn't that interesting? So to avoid breeding with itself, the flowers burst open in a wave with the male parts of the flower ripening before the female parts of the flower, and that then allows the plant not to pollinate itself. And you can see here, these ones are all finished and are done, whereas these ones are just getting to it. Now, the last time I was with a tall white squirrel, there was a sack spider living in it. This one here has, it looks to be an assassin bug there, very similar to the sack spider, would be waiting to ambush potential predator or prey items that come and land on the flowers to partake in its nectar. Now, the male parts of the flower are these here. These are the pollen producing parts of the flower. The pollen will be produced on these male parts, and the female part of the flower is this one single stalk here. Pollen from another flower will land on the top of this particular stalk, will then make its way down a tube all the way down to the base of the flower, where it will then pollinate the ovary of the flower itself, and from this the seed pod will then develop, and the seeds inside of it, and then the plant itself will start to spread the seeds as it matures. Fantastic, eh? Flowering plants, one of the more modern of the species on the planet, one of the most highly evolved of the species of the planet, and these pretty much outcompeted everything else after, well, in modern times at least, anyway, from a botanical point of view. Nikki, you'd like to know what the rarest tree on Djuma is, and I can show you. It's this one here. Now, although I just looked up and I found one, this particular riverbed is home to the largest concentration of these sneezewoods that I've ever seen, and this is, in my opinion, probably the rarest tree out here. These sneezewoods do not occur in any large numbers anywhere in the country, and it's at Djuma that I found the highest concentration of sneezewoods, and this is one of the rarest trees, Pteroxylum obliquum, and this particular drainage line that we're walking in now is home to the most numerous concentrations of them. Other than that, you'd go a very long way before you found any noticeable sneezewoods around. And so this is probably one of the rarest, followed very closely by the tambuti tree, and this is the tambuti here. Well, this is one here really. This is a baby one. So this is a young tambuti tree with its milky latex. And these also grow in thickets, and just like the sneezewood trees, and they were also harvested to near extinction because of their wood. So they were chopped down to be used in the factories that sprang up around Johannesburg, and were very sought after wood for many, many years. Not only by the settlers in this area because of their aesthetic appeal for furniture, but because they had very termite resistant wood, and so they were used heavily in the construction of wagons, houses and homesteads. They were used then in the furniture industry. In the case of the sneezewood, they were even used in heavy industry for a while. They were used to fuel furnaces, to boil water, to create steam. Really, they were overutilized. And so these are the two rarest trees that I have to show you. Right, on that note, we're going to send you over to something that Noel has to show you.
Sorry about our little technical difficulty there. It does happen. We are live. We are interactive. So whatever happens to us, you all see. We have one of the females dust bathing at the moment. I've been saying that it's getting really warm really quickly, and she's busy cooling herself down with that dust bath. She's using her front limb to sort of dig up the soil into a consistency where she can grab it with her trunk and then pull it off. So earlier I said we were going to stay with these elephants and then move back to those leopard tracks. However, our beautiful elephants are moving into the area where I had to leave Rexon with those lion tracks. And if anyone was watching yesterday afternoon, you saw that interaction with Triss with the elephant lions. Elephants and lions don't get on. Elephants are always acutely aware of any sort of lion that's around. The wind is currently blowing in the wrong direction for them to pick up a scent, but they are heading that way. So I want to stick with them and see if they can help us possibly find those lions. I haven't had an update from Rex as of yet to see if he's managed to locate, but as we know with the sticks, well, as I'm finding out, I should say, with the sticks, they don't move like normal lions. They do whatever they feel like doing. It's It's amusing, but also a little bit frustrating. But then at the same point, the bush gives you what it gives you, and we see what we see, and you can never complain, because from sack spiders to talking about sneezewoods to these beautiful elephants, there's always something going on. And they definitely have a place in mind. Gianna, you're wondering what is the scariest encounter with Ellies I've ever had. Gianna, for me, with elephants, I don't know how to put this into words. I don't really know if I have a good way of putting it, but I don't find them particularly imposing. I have huge respect for them, but I've spent a lot of time with them in a vehicle and on foot, and they give little signals and they move in certain ways that will show you what they're thinking and how they want to act. They've got this special thing that they do with their shoulder. It's like a twitch or a thought, so you can sort of follow that. But that being said, I've been doing this for long enough that you can always run into some sort of scenario that you couldn't predict. The one that's popping into my head, and I wouldn't say it was scary, I would say that it just took longer to relax back down to a normal state than normal. Actually wasn't very far from here. It was probably about 7-8 years ago. And it was along the side of a river. So it's a big river, and there's 2 roads on either side. And I was driving with myself, and I had, I believe, 6 guests, maybe 8 guests, and my tracker was on front. And we found them, and the road was moving this way, the river was over here, and they were all up and down the banks this way. It was quite a large herd for this area, for that area, so probably about 35 in number. And there was a tiny little baby that they had that was down closer to the river here, and this little baby, something happened. It tried to nurse, or one of the older ones pushed it around, something, and it started screaming and trumpeting. And when the little ones do that, the whole herd wants to come together to be able to protect that baby. And because of where we were parked, when the rest of the herd was coming down and the baby's calling down here, not we weren't in the middle, but just to our sort of 10 o'clock, the front of the car is always 12, so to our 10 o'clock, the herd just decided that whatever had happened must have been us. All I had time to do was reverse up a bank like this and sit. My tracker was spread eagle on the bonnet. I had just enough time to turn around and tell my guests, you don't move, you don't breathe, you just sit, don't do anything. And normally what I do with scenarios where elephants are having a bit of a moment, I shut off, I'm quiet, and I talk to them. Depending on what they're doing, it might be a soothing tone of voice or it might be a stern tone of voice. They're not reacting to my human language, they're reacting to the vibes that I'm giving off and the way that my voice sounds. And it's similar to when you're talking with really agitated adult humans or with children. The tone of voice that you're using is helping dictate the scenario the outcome of the scenario you wish to have. It's the same sort of idea. And this was one of those scenarios where you couldn't even say anything. So my car is still running. I didn't want to shut off because I didn't want to upset them anymore. And by saying they're surrounding me, I mean they were literally here. They were right here. And so I had my foot on the clutch, and it felt like 45 minutes or 20 minutes, and it felt like a really long time. It could have been 2 minutes, who knows. My legs started vibrating like this, and my tracker's still spread eagle on the bonnet, and these Ellies are just not happy, but they're not doing anything. They're not going to tip the car over. Elephants know how they're supposed to behave and how they're supposed to react, because we have a social construct, and they realized that they were inside of our personal bubble. They realized exactly what they were doing, but they were trying to convey to us their displeasure, and then we were being the submissive and trying to convey to them, listen, it wasn't us, just relax. So after what felt like forever, the matriarch took part of her unit away. So remember, you've got the breeding herd, and then you've got the matriarch and her youngsters, then her sister and their youngsters. So it's little family groups that make up the big group. So she moved off, and then the rest started moving off, and then her second in command, the matriarch second in command of that particular herd, I'm not allowed to use those words on live camera, but she was those words. She always, just in any scenario, she was ridiculous. And she stayed right here, right next to me. And then some of the young bulls, sort of 12-year-old bulls, decided, oh, everything's fine, let's play. But now because they're playing right next to the car, the second in command, the 2IC, is pretending to still be agitated, but pretending enough where she can change her mind very quickly. So what I finally was able to do is she moved off probably about half a meter, and then it was just the bulls that were right next to the vehicle tussling, and again right next to the vehicle. And as she moved off half a meter, I went, hey, and clapped my hands like this, which made the bulls push off, and then I just drove. And we got away. They didn't chase us or do anything like that. We got away, and my tracker, who is not a smoker, managed to rustle up a cigarette and run away into a bush for a little bit. I calmed my guests down. I explained the whole thing. And it wasn't that they were doing anything where we thought we were going to not be okay, but having an entire herd of elephants literally up against your cheek for as long as that was, and also having all of them have to trust in me to be able to do what I need to do, and then also knowing that it's just me because my tracker can't do anything from where he is because he needs to make sure he stands still. It definitely got your adrenaline pumping. It was definitely an interesting scenario, and we had lots of amarula coffee. Well, I didn't have amarula coffee, but they had coffee with apple juice stuff in it. And then as we left our drink stop, nerves calmed down. We came across a female leopard and 2 cubs. So again, the bush gives you what it needs to give you to calm everybody down. But that's the one that I can think of at the moment. But in general, after a decade of doing this, 99.9% of my elephant interactions have been fine. I mean, look, there's always something, but they've been fine. Sorry, that was a very long-winded story, but there you go. Our Ellies have now moved over this way. Let's see if we can get another visual. Oh, Wendy, what is going on with you today, my girl? Wendy can't be a boy. All Senzo's saying Wendy's a boy. Wendy can't be a boy, Senzo. All vehicles are girls. Senzo's giving me the hairy eyeball. Okay, apparently Wendy's a boy. Alright, Senzo. Alright, now let me just reposition. There we go. They're very, 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 very relaxed, spread out all in the area. They're moving on the northeastern side of the road where we think our lions possibly are, is in the southeastern side of the road. So they may not come into contact with them, but they're definitely on their way to water. Yana, you're wondering what is the normal lifespan, excuse my English today, I can't speak, normal lifespan of a bull elephant. So elephants in general live to be about 60, 65 years old, so very similar to humans. I do know that these days we are living a little bit longer, but not everywhere in the world, so about the same length as a human, 60 to 65 years. Something I want you to notice, Senzo's panned in on elephant bum. We're doing a lot of elephant bum today. Do you see that tail? You see that tail movement there? That is a relaxed elephant. When an elephant is not relaxed, that tail is stiff and rigid and sticks out. That is a relaxed elephant. So even if this is all you can see of an elephant, like that's all we can see right now, that's a relaxed Ellie. That's some of the posture that we discuss regarding how we test or how we look to see what their mood is and how they're feeling. And then this little one in front of us as well, relaxed tail. His ears are out a little bit just because he's probably listening. The wind's picked up and then he's flapping them around every now and then because it's warm. But his whole body posture is very relaxed. And feeding, no displacement behavior. Very happy. So briefly, that's little bits and bobs that we would look at. And again, I equate reading something like an elephant to same thing as reading humans. So if you're a person that can look at someone and sort of judge a mood, you're very empathetic almost, but you can tell if someone has stiff shoulders and a very tight jawline and their mouth is pursed, they're probably not happy. If they're smiling and their posture's open and their shoulders are open and they're gesturing in a relaxed manner, they're probably enjoying the space and happy. It's very, very, very similar. And again, just like with the tracks, reading that sort of behavior, reading possibly not what they're thinking, but what you assume and hope they're going to do by what they're showing you is a learned process that can only happen over time as you are watching again and again and again and coming into scenarios. So scenarios like this where they're just feeding, or also scenarios like the one that we were discussing now with that elephant sighting that I had. So it's an interesting one, the elephants and the idea of a scary interaction with elephants. I have driven quite a few South Africans in my time, and there was one guest that I had. Our family used to come and visit me 3, 4, 5 times a year. And she, when she was younger, had what was for her a really difficult situation to deal with elephants that involved another vehicle and an elephant not being too nice to that vehicle. And so we worked for about 3 years on how she can sort of get over that. And by the time I left that property and moved on back down to the Lowveld, we were walking elephants on foot and sitting in little shady spots and having them come past us, and she wasn't having any issues. So it's one of those things where you can get past it once you know what you're doing, and that's what we worked on, is her learning how to read those elephants so that she could feel comfortable in any scenario. So for me, I spent a lot of time out with wildlife, so when I go into a big city, I have to relearn how to read humans, or else I get super nervous and can't quite figure out what's potting in a scenario. You'll see I'll go into a restaurant and make sure my back's to a wall so I can see everybody and make sure I know what's going on. All right, we have Scott with, I think you said cheetah cursed, but it could be a surprise, who knows? So let's head on up to him and see what he has to show us. Hopefully it's another one of his brilliant chases and kills. He's so lucky up that side.